Hey everyone, it's Strange Michael. I hope you're doing well today. Welcome to the first ever hidden horror segment video on my channel. In case you don't know yet, this is a new thing I'm starting up after finally returning like a father who went out to get cigarettes and never came back. After like 7 months, I figured I'd kind of restart something like this, where essentially I'll have films that I love, that I've seen over the years, that I really like or really recommend, and no one else talks about them. They're underrated gems, they're hidden gems, if you will, but I personally like to call them hidden horrors because there are things I want to show you and recommend to you that I think you might like. And for people who like my kind of taste in movies, who have the same kind of taste in movies as I do, when it comes to the horror stuff I talk about on this channel, maybe this is for you. So hopefully this first recommendation will be one that will be something you haven't heard of before, haven't seen before, because I want it to be something really important to you as much as it is to me. Anyway, my first ever hidden horror segment review is going to be for a movie that I saw once upon a time. I was up too late, probably about 11:30, 12 o'clock at night, and I caught like the last 20, 30 minutes of this movie that I loved. I believe it was either on AMC or the Sci-Fi channel when it was still called SCI-FI, not this weird SYFY nonsense. I don't like change, and Sci-Fi channel started that back in my childhood. This is a 1991 horror film that I caught too late at night, and it creeped me out. It had one of the best jump scares I'd ever seen, and I loved it. Ever since then, I've loved it. Because at the time, I was a humongous fan of Goosebumps, and I loved Slappy the Ventriloquist Dummy from Goosebumps. And I was scared to death of Chucky. Now, apparently this film was also considered a Child's Play ripoff, which I think is fair but unfair at the same time. And as I get into my review, hopefully you'll kind of see that too. This movie is called Dolly Dearest. I love this cover, by the way. It's such a great cover. I've seen this movie maybe 3 or 4 times in my entire life, and it's like every 5 years of my life I finally watch it. I think the first time I ever saw it, I could not have been more than like 7. And it scared me so bad, but I loved it. I loved it. There was something about it that just seemed very special, and I couldn't figure out what it was. And of course, over the years, I've become a huge fan. Once I became a fan of Chucky, was already a fan of Slappy most of my life, I became a fan of killer doll flicks. And there's a lot of bad ones out there, like Puppet Master, that I'm not really into, but there's really great ones out there like this that people just don't talk about. But my passion for it still remains. And by the way, I don't buy boutique stuff. I think the boutique shit online that people try to defend and say that's the real physical media, that's going to be the lifeblood of physical media. You're nuts if you think I'm going to pay 35 or 40 bucks for a regular old Blu-ray, or in this case, like a pack that comes with a Blu-ray and a DVD, or some packs that come with a 4K and a Blu-ray. I don't even have 4K. Why would I want that? But something like this, I got this on sale when I thought of it the other week as a Amazon gift card Christmas present. And I think I got it from Vinegar Syndrome, I believe. Yeah, because it's got the little emblem down here on the side. This, right now, is the only boutique label thing I own aside from a Criterion release, which is not the same because Criterion's at Barnes & Noble. I figure you could probably find this somewhere too. But anyway, my whole point is, I'm not a boutique guy. I went out of my way to get this from a boutique, and I would have been willing to spend 40 bucks on it because I love this movie so much. There's something about it. There's something about how the atmosphere works, the music about it that I just love. It feels like a fairy tale in some ways. Dolly Dearest, what is this movie about? Well, again, it's kind of the killer doll subgenre of movies like Chucky and Slappy if he killed children, which he doesn't. And I love that subgenre deeply. I love any kind of movie that has dolls coming to life. I've recommended a lot of them in the past, and I've recommended them on the Goosebumps channel as well. But this movie, I went out of my way to get because I love it so deeply. And I've just recently rewatched it. The Blu-ray transfer is beautiful. But it was a blast. It was a blast. It was like my childhood all over again. Very few movies can I just put in the DVD player or put on TV, then sit all the way through it as a rewatch instead of having to chop it up into breaks and go to work and come home and finish it, that kind of thing. This movie is one of the few recent that I sat down and watched it from beginning to end and could not take a break. I loved it. Absolutely loved it again. My score at the end of the review is going to be something I think will be questionable on my mental sanity by many of you, but deal with it, is what I would say. Essentially, a family from the U.S. moved to Mexico. The mom is actually the mom from Pet Sematary, by the way. She's kind of our main character. She and her husband and her son and daughter, the daughter's the youngest, probably about 5 or 6 years old. The son is probably about 11, 10, somewhere in there. They moved to Mexico to start up a new doll company that Dad is trying to build. They bought a warehouse out there. They also bought a house, and the house is huge. It's extravagant. It's very nice. Clearly a rich person's house in Mexico. And in the backyard, there's this really cute little shed-type house that kids can hang out in, mainly for girls. It's designed to look like a dollhouse. And they go to the location on day one to go see the warehouse they bought to start this new doll business, and they got ripped off. It's like a small shed type of thing. If you took like 3 sheds somebody would put in their backyard, and you put them together, that's about how big this building is, basically. Very small. So they're immediately very disappointed by it. They're immediately in this place of, oh, we got ripped off, we got to make the best of this, whatever. And apparently this factory used to be a doll company right before it, so they decided to paint and try to use some different items to make the place look better and feel more cozy as a business, hire workers, that kind of thing. But they also find some old dolls on day one that happen to be the previous business's dolls, and they're beautiful, absolutely beautiful dolls. They're not like the Annabelle-style dolls where no kid would want that. You know, it's terrifying looking. This thing looks like it's looking into your soul all the time. These are actual cute-looking dolls that I think most little girls would want. They're as big as a little girl, so it's kind of, you know, spooky in that respect. But these dolls, possibly, there's about 3 or 4 of them, I think 3 were on the shelf. They may or may not be possessed by some kind of Aztec demonic spirit of some sort that escaped from a kind of an excavation site behind the warehouse, not too far away. Literally, it's like in the backyard of the warehouse. But there's been an excavation site out there, and a few men died recently in our cold open of the movie that we got to see, and this red lightning spirit possession thing came out and went into these dolls. But we don't know how vicious they are just yet, but this young girl in the family begins to bond with her doll, and things get a little bizarre. The little girl starts to change her attitudes, the way she acts. She seems a little more bestial and animalistic and mean. And her mom, the chick from Pet Sematary, starts to get a little weirded out by that and starts to really keep an eye on her. The little girl wants to seem to be by herself all the time with her doll, and the mom suspects some weird things are happening there. Does it sound like a Child's Play ripoff? Not really. Not really. It kind of has elements of that, like the possessed doll thing, which is not a spoiler. This is not like Child's Play, where most of the movie you're supposed to think that Chucky is not alive, that it might be Andy doing things. It's not like that. It's more in the vein of, you know from the get-go something is up because of the possessed red lightning that goes on the dolls. But a lot of this is focused on the family drama, oddly enough, and a lot of it, like I said, is from the perspective of the mom and how she's feeling. There is like a college professor, Indiana Jones type that's kind of a subplot in the movie. That's kind of off to the wayside so far that it's barely involved in here. But I care about this family. I even love their Catholic house lady that takes care of the house, the maid or whatever you want to call her. She's so sweet. She seems like a sweet, sweet woman. But this movie is all about its atmosphere. It has a great, fun atmosphere. It's kind of leaning more into the goofy silliness of this idea than Child's Play does. Now, Child's Play did that later on, but this movie does it way early on. I cannot believe we never got a franchise out of this movie. I don't know why it was not well received. It's one of those movies like Friday Part 5 that I just don't get why people hate it so deeply, aside from the obvious with Friday. This movie has so much going for it. It's well shot. It has this kind of Italian feel to it. Not like a giallo, but just this Italian feel to its cinema making. And I think that's kind of surprising about it. I really love it for that. I think it's fun for that. It knows what it is. It knows how weird and silly and goofy it is, and it really embraces that in the best possible way. The music is great, that kind of late 80s, early 90s synth type of music sometimes, not your typical throwback 80s style most people claim is all retro and stuff now, but you'll know it when you see it. It's nice, it's comforting, and it fits this movie very well. As I said earlier, I think one of the best jump scares ever involving this warehouse and one of these dolls is in this movie. I think it's immediately well done. I cannot really explain to you how much I love that particular jump scare, and when you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about, because it's so unique to this movie and just horror in general. I'm not a jump scare guy. I loved that. This movie also is one of the few 80s films I ever saw utilize this idea of things moving in the background that the character isn't really focusing on, but we as the audience can if we're paying close enough attention. You might see somebody running around in the background, that kind of thing. Most 80s films, slasher, killer doll movies, creature features, any of that, you don't really see that often. It's not a very common thing. This is one of those movies from the 90s that feel like an 80s film, probably shot in the 80s and wasn't released till 91, as far as I know. but it looks so good and it utilizes things like that so well that I just don't think, it doesn't get the appreciation it deserves, and it's sad because the cast is good, even down to the son and daughter actors are really good in this movie for what they have to do. I love it. I think Dolly Dearest is one of the most underrated, shockingly underrated movies ever made, horror or otherwise. I can't believe people don't love this and embrace it the way they do something recent like Megan. I liked Megan a lot, but Megan ain't as good as this. It's just not. This film doesn't feel cheap. You know, it has this concept that should feel cheap and should feel more goofy than it actually is. But the fact that they knew what they were making and they really loved their idea and they had a passion for it, I love it. I think it is so good. The practical effects look good. The animatronics they use for the dolls' faces and stuff, they're fucking scary, man. Like, they're scary. I love it. I love everything about Dolly Dearest. I have no complaints at all. Obviously, it being a 90s kind of cheapo movie, it has some things here and there to jokingly point out, like an MST3K type of joke, but still, the movie itself is such a blast to watch. I have never met anyone who I've talked to just randomly in my life, at work or at school back in the day, that knew what this movie was, who had ever heard of it, much less seen it. And every time I show it to somebody, like tell them, hey, by the way, it's all free on YouTube right now. The full movie's on YouTube. Go out of your way and watch it. If you like my taste of movies and you like hearing me talk about stuff that I like, take my recommendation, go watch it. If you don't like the first 30 minutes or so, you're not going to like it. So might want to quit. But anyway, I really love this. Everyone I've ever shown it to from YouTube have loved it. Every single one. My mom, anybody. And I cannot believe people don't talk about it more. Dolly Dearest is one of those movies that's just waiting for a big YouTube essay or a big YouTuber out there like PewDiePie to find this thing and randomly talk about it. Anyway, Dolly Dearest. If I had to rate Dolly Dearest on a 5-star basis, there ain't no way, in my personal taste and opinion, that I can give it anything less than a 5 out of 5 stars. I know it seems high, just trust me. It's one of those films that if you know, you know. The boutique here from Vinegar Syndrome, this copy, totally worth it. The transfer and everything looks amazing. I wish there was bonus features. There's basically nothing in there. But I love the movie enough, I don't care. So, 5 out of 5 stars for me. Huge recommendation for me. Not everything that I recommend on the Hidden Horrors part of my channel is going to be something that is going to blow your mind. But this is one of the ones that I recommend so much that I can't see it not shocking you by how much you're probably going to like it. And it's something that, you know, I really appreciate and love. It doesn't have to just be a 5 out of 5 thing for me to call it a hidden horror for the channel. It can just be something that I think is surprisingly great for what it's doing and what it was once upon a time. Or now. But anyway, Dolly Dearest, have you seen this awesome little flick? Let me know down below what you think about it. I'd love to hear everything you have to say about it and my review down below. Tell me everything. Rate it, all that stuff. Anyway, what did you think about this hidden horror kickoff video here? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Let me know all that down below too. Anyway, guys, thank you so much. God bless you all. Have a happy Valentine's Day tomorrow if I don't happen to get a video out to you. Might have a couple of reviews. I can't promise that depending on how the day goes tomorrow. It might be a little busy, but still. Anyway, thank you guys. God bless you once again, and goodbye.